Hello, I'm Dr. Phil Dietrich, and welcome to Half Hour to Health, the health show that travels to where people are discovering and using new approaches to both health and healing.
The food we eat is one of the most important keys to our health. Whether we are aware of it or not, many of us are getting a diet of toxic chemicals along with our food. Today, Half Hour to Health looks at this problem. First, we visit a business that offers a way to avoid chemical-laden produce. Then we go to the Pesticide Action Network to learn the facts about what's in our food, how it gets there, and just how big the problem is. Here we find Bay Area Organic Express, otherwise known as the Box. Started in 1995 out of the garage of its owner, Paul Johnson, the Box delivers organic produce right to your door. Why is eating organic a good decision?
If you're going to compare organic produce with conventional produce, that is organic produce with pesticide produce, it's really not a fair comparison.
Sure.
The industries are much different sizes, but most importantly, the cost is hidden. The cost is hidden because we have substantial subsidies going to farmers that use pesticides. There's the ecological and the health cost that you're not paying with your wallet, you're paying with your health, and you're going to pay your doctor instead of your grocer. So absolutely, you're making an investment in your health when you pay a little bit more for organic produce. You're saying, I want the best product for me and my family, and I want to keep my food budget where it belongs on my table and not have it happen on a operating table. Cancer is the #2 killer in the United States, leading cause of death behind heart disease. Now, cancer is at the highest rate of risk in farm workers who are applying pesticides. So it's not a coincidence that these farm workers who have the highest risk of cancer are the ones who are dealing most closely with these pesticides. Now, we end up with these same pesticides that cause cancer in farm workers on our food, in our plates, in our homes, feeding them to our families. And obviously, we can increase or decrease our risk by how much of our produce is organic and how much of our produce is pesticide-ridden.
Every day in the Box warehouse, employees prepare boxes of produce fresh from organic farms for delivery to homes throughout the San Francisco Bay Area.
Organic is actually the same as produce has always been. We have to remember that ancient agriculture, right up to the modern day, was organic agriculture, and only since the 1940s have people really used pesticides in any form, for the mass public. And so as a backlash to that very recent phenomenon, people have chosen to move back into organic agriculture, same as it ever was, and that's really what organic is the absence of those pesticides. We're also a retailer. We provide home delivery, so we're not servicing restaurants and health food stores. We bring it directly to the person at their home. And so we basically use a wholesaler, broker type relationship to source most of our product.
You may not have a business like the Box in your area. There are other sources of organic produce. Health food stores, food co-ops, even some supermarket chains now carry organic produce. Or maybe you can get a home delivery service going in your community. Now let's go to the offices of the Pesticide Action Network of North America to find out more about the problem of pesticides.
Pesticide Action Network was founded in 1982 by a small group of very committed individuals from across the world. And their goal is to replace toxic pesticides with sustainable alternatives. Since 1982, the network has grown to many, many different participating partner organizations. So there's almost 1,000 organizations that we work with on a regular basis to try to get international treaties passed, to work at a national level and affect what EPA does with regard to pesticides. And then we also work here in California.
Exactly what is a pesticide? Pesticide is a generic term for any chemical that kills pests. In addition to insects, so-called pests include birds, worms, rodents, algae, fungi, weeds, and other plants.
Pesticides are harmful to human health in a number of different ways. Many of them have been linked to cancer, birth defects, and then as acute poisonings as well. They're meant to kill things. They're designed to kill things. And in fact, humans are not very good at getting rid of toxins in their body.
An estimated 1.23 billion pounds of pesticides were dumped into the environment in the United States in 1997. Worldwide, 5.68 billion pounds of pesticides were dumped that year.
we've started doing what are called biomonitoring studies, where we look at blood, urine, tissue samples, breast milk, and people have started to analyze what types of chemical contaminants we carry with us in our bodies. And the results are disturbing, because almost everybody has, in the industrialized world anyway, has a lot of these persistent organic chemicals, both industrial chemicals like PCBs and dioxins, as well as what are called organochlorine pesticides, the most popular of which was DDT. There's nothing in place now that would require growers or homeowners who are tenting and fumigating their houses to do any monitoring. The Air Resources Board in California has done some monitoring, and what they find is pretty scary, that we are being exposed to levels of pesticides that are way above health standards, particularly if you live in one of those residential developments that's right by a farm field, and also if your neighbors use pesticides regularly.
Pesticide exposure has serious health consequences for people. Children are especially vulnerable.
Children are growing and developing, and when cells are dividing and reproducing, there's lots of chances for errors in how the cells replicate. So you have many potential places for mutation to step in the development of the nervous system, which is important in the first couple of years of life and in utero. Exposures to neurotoxins, which many of the insecticides are, can interfere with that type of development as well. So the growing and changing part of the processes really make kids susceptible. They're experiencing all kinds of chemical signals from their own body, and when a pesticide gets in there, it interferes with what's supposed to be going on. Well, there are many symptoms of pesticide poisoning that are very much the same as the flu or a cold, or nausea, diarrhea, irritability in children. They're grumpy about something, you don't really know why, you never know why, so what can you do? So it's very difficult to pinpoint when a poisoning has occurred unless you know that they've gotten into something. Richard Fenske, a professor in toxicology at the University of Washington in Seattle, did a study of 100 children in Seattle and looked at their urine levels of these pesticide breakdown products, finding that every single child but one, had detectable pesticide residues in their urine. And the one child who didn't ate organic food only, and the parents did not use pesticides around the home. Many things that are imported actually have fewer pesticide residues than the U.S. produce. And so that's a common misconception that imported produce is worse than American produce. And sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not. So what I would recommend is that people buy organic produce. If you can't afford organic produce for everything, at least buy organic produce for those particularly problematic crops. And you can probably minimize a lot of your exposure by doing that. Washing fruits and vegetables doesn't really do that much, because many of the pesticides are absorbed through the roots of the plant and are in the tissue of the fruit or vegetable, so you really can't get rid of them by washing.
Here are 6 steps you can take to reduce your pesticide exposure. Buy organic. If your supermarket doesn't stock organic products, ask them to. Buy non-pesticide products for home pest control. Educate yourself about pesticides. Learn about the problems and the solutions. Talk to your neighbors about pesticides. Discuss alternatives. Talk to your children's school about what pesticides are being used and when they plan to phase them out. Request that they notify you prior to use.
That wraps it up for this week's Half Hour to Health. Thanks for joining us. Tune in next week as we look at what's really in your drinking water and investigate a special oil that just might be the missing link in your diet.
For more information about today's program, visit our website at www.halfhourtohealth.tv.